Hi, everyone. Welcome to Outreach's Cultural Access Forum and Exchange. My name is Katie Sampson. I am the Director of Programs at Outreach. You're also joined by our entire Outreach staff here, and facilitating our chat is Alex Boyle, who is our Member Services Coordinator, and we'll be joined shortly by our folks at PhillyCAM who are presenting today. They will be introducing themselves. I also want to thank and mention our cart captioner, LaDonna from Caption Access. For those of you who are just joining us, you can access the captions in the show feature as far as showing subtitles to better experience this accessible virtual cafe. For those of you who are attending for the first time and are new to Outreach, welcome. We are an art services organization based in Philadelphia. We create, advocate for, and expand accessible opportunities in the arts so the full spectrum of society is served. During these unprecedented times, the advocacy portion of our mission has grown louder, which is why today's cafe is really important to us. We host these cafes throughout the year. This is our first virtual cafe that we've done at Outreach. So we appreciate your patience and bearing with us as we navigate this uncharted territory. We sent out a newsletter today, and we thought it was important to address here in support of the protests, both peaceful and disobedient, as a tool to bring issues like police brutality against Black people to the forefront of conversations. We support reallocating funds from the Philadelphia Police Department to support social services that lift up Black people and Black communities. And we are willing to put our money where our mouth is. We have suspended our end of year giving campaign in the run up to June 30th. And we are directing Outreach donors to donate to organizations that support the Black communities instead. If you have not received our newsletter and you'd like to do that, you may go to our website at www.art-reach.org in order to get on our monthly newsletter. Our advocacy for disability community also ramped up the week we were closed and all programming was shut down here in the Philadelphia area. It was incredibly fortuitous for us that we had already scheduled an accessibility and media production in-person cafe with PhillyCAM. And so I reached out to our dear friend Jeff and asked him if he would be willing to go virtual. And he gave the thumbs up. So we've been communicating ever since. Just a little background to give some relevance to our partnership with PhillyCAM. I met Jeff 2 years ago when I first joined Outreach as Director of Programs. He was a constant attendee at a lot of our learning engagement opportunities. And I want to say that PhillyCAM is a really excellent example of how institutional buy-in works when it comes to accessibility. Jeff not only has attended, we've seen board of trustees through PhillyCAM transition into advocacy much more, and just a full out embrace of an organization's willingness to really put their best foot forward when it comes to accessibility in arts and culture. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn things over to Roland and Jeff at PhillyCAM. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on accessibility and media production. I know these past few weeks have been far from easy, not just for us, but for many throughout this country. And so I really appreciate you all taking time to be here today. And just to introduce ourselves, so I am Jeff Bethay. I am the operations manager at PhillyCAM. Pronouns are he, him, they, them. And I've been at PhillyCAM now for 5 years. My responsibilities usually satellite around our facility and our administrative and technological infrastructures. And it has been my primary experience in public access media. And I'm joined today by my coworker and friend, Rollin. So I'll give him a moment here to introduce himself.
Hi, Og. Thanks everybody for joining us here. Yeah, my name's Rollin. My pronouns are he, him. I've been working as the access facilitator at PhillyCAM for the past 2 years. And before that, I had been in public access for 12 years at a smaller station up in Vermont where I grew up. So I really love public access. I love what it stands for. I love the avenue for creativity it provides for communities. And I've been excited to see what PhillyCAM has done in the years that it's been in the Philadelphia area and join the team there and be a part of it. So yeah, I'm excited for today.
And here we have images of ourselves. To the left is an image of me holding a soldering iron and some hard drives, and lower but not depicted, also some cables with a orange circuit board as my background. And to the right is an image of Roland with some colorful clouds behind him as he blows some bubble gum. That just tells you.
I'm a big bubblegum fan, so that's a legit portrait.
Yeah, so, and those are our emails. I will also put this up at the end if anyone would like to see it, but it is jeff@phillycam.org and roland@phillycam.org. So just to tell a little bit more about what PhillyCAM is, I have a photo here as the background of our building, depicting our building from across the street. PhillyCAM is Philadelphia's public access television station and community media center. It is an organization that is membership based, and it brings together people of Philadelphia to make and share media that allows them to express their creativity while also expressing their democratic values and practicing civic participation. At times, you may hear me refer to our PhillyCAM members as PhillyCAM producers or just producers, and that is because they do produce content with us. PhillyCAM is also home to WPPM 106.5 LPFM. We transmit on the radio within about a 5-mile radius of our location. The PPM stands for People Powered Media. It is our tagline, which can be seen as a magenta bar along the side of our building. You can also listen to that station on phillycam.org/listen. And you can watch our channels if you are in the area on Comcast 66, 966, and 967, and Verizon 29 and 30. And if you are not in the area, you can watch, or if you just don't have cable, you can watch on phillycam.org/watch. So for us, pre-pandemic, our usual operations involved regular in-studio shoots or field recordings for our members. So those who have already gone through the orientation process and have gotten the appropriate clearances would just place reservation requests with us when they would want to come in. And they would simply just come through the door, sign in, and then go to verify what equipment they have reserved with us, make sure everything is operational, ask questions if they have any, and then take that equipment with them out into the field or take it into the studio to shoot, or maybe they provide their own equipment to shoot in our studios. And it involved quite a bit of face-to-face interaction and hands-on assistance from us. And same with our in-person workshops. So there were plenty of those for editing and studio shoots and how to work our cameras so that you can take them out into the field. And depicted here on the right is an image at the top of our main studio. It is our largest studio space. It is a little over 800 square feet. And it is lit currently with some magenta and blue lighting in this image, and has a camera, one of 3 cameras off to the left, and a studio screen monitor that is on a TV stand off to the right. You can also see some of the white lights beaming down from our lighting grid. And below that is a green screen studio. It is the second of our 3 TV studios, and you can see 2 lights on stands and a camera off to the left that has a teleprompter attached to it. And just to give a little bit more context around that with some people involved, to the left I have an image here of our radio station, and it is filled to max capacity. There are 8 people in this room, all involved in this production in some way. One is standing and recording what is happening with a mobile device, while the other 7 are sitting with headphones on and in front of microphones. And to the right, we have one of our PhillyCAM producers, Tony J, and our smaller and third TV studio called the Express Studio. As she is setting up some shots, she is looking at a screen and making sure to get everything looking the way that she wants before her guests and hosts show up. So I will let Rollin talk about how we had to pivot post-pandemic, especially since he was one of our most prolific contributors to our blog, which was just one of the resources we went to try to support our members.
Yeah, so as all organizations did, we had to pivot, and we closed down our offices completely. I want to say March 16th, maybe. But so we closed down completely, and that meant we had to try and continue our support for our membership, their content creation, and also just the framework of the community really was kind of our primary goal, all virtually. So, that took a couple different forms, or many different forms for us, but we did really try to put a lot of resources forward into helping producers continue to create their content from home. And kind of in the same way that like late night talk shows and things suddenly became a bunch of dudes in their kitchens or houses in front of a webcam, we tried to ramp up our support for helping our membership continue to create their content at home, using the tools that were available, offer tech support, offer one-on-one support via email, and also have virtual talks where we could communicate with members. We did continue a couple of the workshops that we felt like could work in a virtual capacity, but PhillyCAM's, specifically our more technical workshops, are very hands-on, try to focus on really getting the gear in people's hands, make it as open to different learning styles as we can. And so it felt like they just, things where you need to have a camera in your hand or the mouse working editing software just wasn't going to work remotely. So we did continue a few classes, our classes related to production and planning, to plan your show ahead of time. And then we did quite a lot of work creating tutorials, blog posts, things like that. Some of those were highly technical and using platforms like Zoom and StreamYard to record interviews. And some of those were less technical, and they were about how to sort of navigate a just completely unprecedented time when it came to creative output and space and understanding what our members were going through. So through this time, we really tried to encourage people to continue making their content, but also make it clear that we were trying to support them regardless of whether or not they were continuing to produce their shows, and to kind of hold their space for them when it comes to things like their time slots on our channel. So for our members that really just were in no position to keep creating content, to know that they were still supported. And PhillyCAM during that time did try to reach out by phone to as many of our members as we could, call and just to check in, just to ask how everybody was doing, see what they thought we could do to help, what were they interested in. And for a lot of our members, just hearing from us, just, kind of having that cut through some of that isolation was great. And for some of our members, they had very specific requests that we were able to address, like they wanted more tutorials on things like Zoom, or how to light better from home, or how to get better audio from home, or things like that. So yeah, those are just a few of the things trying to make that pivot. And to this point, PhillyCAM has not reopened, but we have moved into trying to figure out how that is all going to look. And yeah, let's see, I guess we can hit that next slide here. Just a few images from some of the creation we're doing. So we have some of the logos from the platforms that we put to use, Zoom, Loom, open broadcast software, OBS, which is freeware for more advanced streaming, and then StreamYard, which is a free/paid program similar to Zoom in some ways, but has a little bit more fine-tuned control that we have really kind of jumped in with both feet to help our membership continue to create their shows. We have a couple screen grabs of shows that we're using StreamYard, one with our planning and production coordinator, Gabe Castro, and one of our members when they were doing one of our shows called Producer Circle, where we had invited members on to talk about their learning experience from trying to create their shows from home. And during this whole time, we've been trying to offer support, but we've also been learning quite a lot from our membership as well as they try to figure out all the little ins and outs of how do you make your home look good? How do you find time to do it? How do you make a living room sound better and look better and all those things? And then on the right, we have a freeze frame from a Zoom call that includes myself with a virtual background, Jeff with his DSLR video background, using that as a webcam, and our coworker Sergio Galliano and his setup, which includes a USB microphone to help improve his audio quality. So some of those components. And for fun, we thought we would also put up some images of our home setups that we spent some time working on when we found out we weren't going to be coming back to the office for the foreseeable future. And it looks like a lot of wires and fun things. And that's partly because Jeff and I are both big nerds and could spend forever compiling setups and things. But just to kind of give you a visual on some of the stuff here. So it includes external microphones and audio interfaces to get those microphones into the system, lighting apparatus, backgrounds, and then also things like sound blankets and panels to help reduce echo and things like that. Anybody that's tried to do a Zoom call from their big hardwood floor kitchen with high ceilings is probably learning through this pandemic how sound plays such a big role in the quality of these, and things like echo can be really, really distracting. So I don't know, Jeff, you want to talk a little bit more about your setup here as we're looking at it?
So to the left is the setup for me at home, and I'm sitting in it right now. And here you see a desk with a monitor sitting on top of it and a pair of speakers. And there are two lamps. One has an umbrella attached to it, they're just normal lamps, but just to more evenly distribute the light. It was just something I had left over from an old project. And I also have some acoustic tiles that are on the wall. I had already set up the space with those tiles prior to the pandemic, so that was a little less work for me. And then off to the right, you can kind of see peeking into the image, if you're able to see the image, that there is like this navy drape that is just a packing blanket, nothing too fancy about it. It's just a packing blanket on stands, and it is to block out any unwanted noise that may be coming through the window or bouncing off the wall behind me. It just helps to acoustically close in the space a little bit more and make the room sound a bit smaller. And I also have another packing blanket that is not depicted, that is on the floor, to help with any sort of reflections that might bounce off the hardwood floor up to the ceiling and back down again, and so on and so forth. And to the right is Rollin's setup. So Rollin, if you want to give us a little bit more about what we see here.
Sure. Yeah. So this is a setup I put together for one of our virtual classes that was going to include kind of a refresher on one of our cameras. So on the left of the screen, you can see that I have the camera set up in front of the webcam so that I could go through settings and menus and things like that. There's a laptop, and then it's all sort of framed with a paper photography backdrop to kind of keep the background simple and uncluttered. And the webcam that's being used is a Sony mirrorless camera that's then connected through some adapters, and we have a network adapter for internet and things like that. But I would just say, even if you don't have any equipment, there's a whole bunch of just sort of common sense things that you can do to make your setup look better. And that could be its own webinar, so I won't go all the way down that road. But if anybody's interested, we've dedicated quite a bit of the blog that we mentioned earlier, which is at phillycam.org/blog, to going over a lot of these things. And we've really found there's nothing better for making your web conferencing look better than to just get on with your guests ahead of time and spend a little time with them working on the background, just using things they have around the house to help with lighting, to help with sound. As Jeff mentioned, I found rugs, even yoga mats and things can be helpful to get rid of some of that echo, help with your sound quality. So there's a lot you can do, and you don't need any of this gear. But yeah, so there's that.
Agreed. So moving on into one of the big topics here, captioning. So I just would like to preface before getting into this that as a television station, we've been doing quite a bit of research into some industry solutions for getting most, if not all, of the programming that is featured on our channels to be captioned. In case you go to check out our channel after this session, or you already have seen our channel and you wonder, like, where are the captions? They just did this session on captioning. They're so hypocritical. We have definitely been working on that, and it has definitely been a different ball game. We coincidentally made the most headway in researching this than we probably ever have before. And back in February and March, and then the stay-at-home order went into effect. And so we are definitely excited to pick this up as soon as we are back in the swing of things. There are companies and products that are specifically marketed toward broadcast infrastructures and cablecast infrastructures that you may never need to know unless you feel like going into building your own channel and having captioning as a part of that. So we will not be covering any of those today, rather than solutions that you as an individual can use to caption your own content, from anywhere, from home, assuming that you have a computer and you have access to the internet. So first up, I'd like to talk about WebCaptioner. We've made use of this one for probably once or twice. I even did some experiments with it by captioning over some Instagram live streams that I've done. And it is primarily used for live real-time captioning. And this, I would say, if you find yourself not able to afford having a live captioner, this would be something that you might consider. It is free. The developer is very fantastic in making sure to keep up and keep everything updated with it, making sure to listen to what the people are saying. There's an active Facebook group about this. You need to have Google Chrome in order to make use of it. Again, it is built for live events, but if you wanted to take it a little bit beyond that, you can save the transcript and export it, and then import that transcript into something else to further fine tune it. But if you're using it for live events, you can just take an overlay of the captions and layer it onto your video feed. Moving beyond that, there is DaVinci Resolve. So we really could have put any non-linear editing system here, but the reason why we wanted to put DaVinci Resolve into this presentation is because it is by far the most advanced, free, stable editing software that I've ever used. It's developed by Blackmagic Design. And if you'd like to make use of some of the pro features, there is just a one-time cost of $300 rather than the subscription-based model that Adobe and a lot of other companies have begun using. The major drawback here is that it has high-level hardware requirements, and it is not very forgiving if your system fails to meet those requirements. So if you were to download and install this application, it would run a benchmark test on your system. And if it failed, the application would just simply not run. It doesn't really give you the option to still run it and then have it run poorly. It just, to save face, it just says no. And so it supports creating subtitles natively within the software. You can see them in real time. You can actually style them to look a very specific way. Or if you didn't want to create them natively, there is a workflow that, again, can be applied to other nonlinear editing systems out there, where you just create the transcript in whatever service or application you feel most comfortable. Then you import that transcript into the editing software, fine tune it and style it, and then you can export it with it burned in to your video as either closed or open captions, or you can export the text file separately and then upload to a platform like YouTube or Vimeo.
Cool. Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. If we're not describing our slides, it's probably because there's no pictures on them, or in this case, we just have a YouTube logo. But this is the next one we wanted to talk about, which is using YouTube's auto captioning, which is one of the big ways out there that videos that wouldn't otherwise have access to captions are getting them. So it's free and it's totally automated. So at the time that you upload a YouTube video, YouTube will scan it and generate captions. And then those captions are editable and they're downloadable in standard formats. So once the video is finished processing and the captions are available, you as the uploader, content creator, can log into your YouTube Creator Studio, and you can either go through the captions right on YouTube and fix them, or you can download them and then either open them in a text editor or bring them back into a program like DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere or any of those, and tweak them until they kind of satisfy and you feel like they're accurate enough, and then re-upload them, which is fantastic to be able to have that extra control over it. They are, Google's made huge progress on this front in terms of their accuracy. So, every month and day and year that goes by for Google, they get more and more accurate. I think they've said they're now around 80% accuracy, but they're not ADA compliant titles, and they don't, it's all done without the input of a human. So the timing of it, how much is shown on one screen and when it goes to the next screen, things like that are just completely automated, and it can need a fair bit of tweaking to kind of get it where you need it. It's also, as best as I can tell, done in a single language. So if you upload your video and it's primarily in English, you're just going to get those English captions done. They do support a bunch of different languages at this point, but by no means all of them. So at the time of this presentation, those auto captions support English, Dutch, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. And as far as I could tell, no Mandarin or Cantonese at this point. And then there's obviously some others missing there as well. But you only get one. So if you need multiple languages, this is out for that. It's not super consistent. And then the other inconsistency that continues to get reported by content creators, even though Google at this point has kind of fully committed to this, is that not all videos get that transcription, or they're not all done right away. So it's hard to build a workflow around it if this was going to be your only means of captioning all your work, where the moment you upload the video, it finishes processing, then you immediately download the auto captions, fix them, re-upload them. There are just enough inconsistencies in how Google does it that it's hard to recommend that as an official workflow. But it does work. But of course, you're also at Google's mercy in general. It means you have to be uploading your content to YouTube. One workaround, I guess, would be to use private links as opposed to public links and then re-download them. But you're kind of just in their whole, like so many things we do, like with the Google Suite and everything like that. You just have to be aware that you're in Google's world. But yeah. So one of the other services we wanted to mention is Rev.com. We just have another image of their logo. And they are kind of a remarkable service in a lot of ways. So you can send them an existing YouTube or Vimeo link or upload a video file to them. And they will send back to you highly accurate captions in the format of your choosing. often within, 24, 48 hours, 3 days, depending on what you're doing. But it's very fast. It's extremely convenient. And they're also highly accurate. They have things like you can send them a list of every proper noun in the video ahead of time, and it'll auto match to those. So you know that all the spellings of names and things are going to be right. They have multilingual services. So you can, for instance, get English and Spanish captions done at the same time. And their pricing scheme at the moment is $125 a minute for one language, or actually that's just for English, $125 a minute for English, or you can get English and a second language for $3 a minute, both of which are extremely competitive pricing. Beyond competitive, it's the cheapest way to go. And again, the fact that you can get those files sometimes within 24 hours is pretty remarkable. And if you're doing shorter form content where this is really critical, this can be kind of a no-brainer. A 10-minute movie is going to cost you $30 to get English and Spanish captions or whatever language you need that are really quite accurate. And again, you can still modify all of them. So you can still bring the file they send you into your nonlinear editor and make the tweaks that you want to make if there are things they miss. I think the biggest negative I'd put on Rev when we were researching for this is just that they do have some questionable working environments. So they have a complete gig economy model so they don't have any like full-time employees that get benefits or anything like that. Everybody that does the captioning and translating for you is working as a contractor, which means they have to pay self-employment tax that substantially eats into their earnings, and then Rev takes a big cut of it as well. So if you can do the math on $125 a minute to do this captioning, and then imagine Rev is taking a big chunk of that, and they're having to pay 30% of it or whatever it is for self-employment taxes. Not a super great way to make a living. So that's the really big downside. And you have to weigh that's a personal choice for you. But if you really need captions, especially if you need them quickly and you need them to be accurate, it's hard to beat what they're offering right now. And then I guess the last piece of that working conditions thing when we were researching is there are a lot of reports that because their service is used for things like court cases and custody hearings and things like that, workers do often have to translate really pretty disturbing videos. And so that's just another piece of what makes it a tough job. But yeah, that's Rev.
And I will already put out this disclaimer before, but with Rollin, but I will put this out again. DaVinci. Here we have depicted their logo with this blue background with white text. And this is my favorite that I've come across so far. I've been making use of it more than any of the other things we've put up here so far for the last couple months. And I couldn't really find how they describe their product, but I created this phrasing. It is a transcription-oriented video audio editing software. Transcription is what it is mainly for, but it also allows you to simultaneously edit. So if, for example, I were to go off on a tangent and begin speaking about some bird that was outside my window, and you think, well, that actually has nothing to do with this session, and you're going through the transcript and you see that portion, you're hearing and you're seeing it, you can actually highlight that text and just click delete, and it does what we call a ripple edit in the timeline. So it will, when you delete that text in the transcript, it will also delete the audio and the video in the timeline and just move everything to the right of that cut over to close the gap. And that automatically saves you an additional 2 to 3 button clicks. The pricing also, to me, isn't that bad. It is $14 per month, or it is $120 per year. If you're just doing like their next level up, you get the first 3 hours of transcription free. Again, this is, I actually forgot to mention, this is automated transcription to start off with. So you upload, you import your video or your audio, and in just a minute or so, it will then populate the transcript to the best of its ability with what it thinks that has been said in that file. And we're talking probably 80 to 90% accuracy, depending on how good the audio is, and what are some very specific some uncommon terminology you might be using. And so I've been using this quite a bit. They also have something called Overdub that is in beta right now and is powered by Lyrebird AI. And some people might find it to be a little bit too much like Black Mirror, but it is a service that allows you to do some vocal recordings, and it then does to the best of its ability to clone your voice, so that if you did a recording and you actually may have said something erroneous, or you just forgot to add something into your recording, you could actually just go back, type the words in, and then it would actually just speak those words in your voice. So again, we are moving into an era between this and deep fakes. We're moving into an era of, you might not be able to trust the things that you see and hear on your television screens and mobile devices and computers and so on and so forth. But right now we're in a good place. This could be a really useful feature for some people. Lyrebird AI initially launched it to help people who have lost their voices to restore that portion of their identity. So again, can be really useful. Just don't use it for evil. They also have a white glove option. That's their terminology. If you are working on a project and you just decide, you know what, any other day, I would really love to just go through here. It's fast. I know I shouldn't be complaining, but I have other things I need to be working on. Can I just have someone else do this for me? Inside their application, they have a white glove option that you can select to have one of their professionals receive your content and do the captioning for you. Not as competitive a price as Rev. It comes in at $1.95 per minute. So, if you have a 30-minute program, you're talking about spending about $60 in order to get it captioned by one of their professionals. And just want to show the interface here. So here I have a photo of the DaVinci interface. To the right is a thumbnail of the video preview of Gabe Castro, our production and planning coordinator, as she's smiling at one of our PhillyCAM members that she's interviewing. And to the left is the transcript that it processed from this, and toward the bottom is the timeline. Now, to the left of the transcript itself, I actually forgot to mention this. When you import your media, it does a recognition of different voices that it finds in the file, and it asks, would you like to assign speaker labels to these voices? And if you say yes, it will play a small clip of what it thinks to be a different voice. And you can say, yes, that is correct. This voice is, let's say, Gabe Castro. And yes, this is also another different voice. And this is Annika Kareen, one of our members whose name I see here in the transcript. And once you go through that process, it will then automatically apply, every time it has heard that person's voice, it will apply speaker labels to them. And that is also in the transcript. So, which honestly was, I never really had thought about prior to using this software, that when you have multiple speakers, it's very useful to see, well, who's speaking right now. We saw the lower third that says, okay, yes, this is Gabe Castro, but it's Gabe and, like 2 or 3 other people speaking. So who's speaking right now? It's really helpful to see Gabe Castro : the words being spoken by Gabe, or Annika Kareen : the words that are being spoken by Annika right now. And in the timeline, it also color matches. So whatever the speaker label's color is, you also see that color in the timeline. So just wanted to give a little bit more context around that. And moving on into audio description. So this was pretty interesting for us, because we are definite newbies in the audio description realm. We found that DIY solutions are pretty scarce, and that the paid solutions are very expensive. And I actually, in doing some research on this, found that one of the reasons it's so expensive, by expensive I'm speaking $15 to $30 per minute, is because they actually don't have like a single person do your audio description. It's usually someone who specializes in writing the descriptions, and then they employ someone as voice talent to then read those descriptions. They're usually not one and the same. There is one company out there that we saw, it claims to bring this price point down by having human audio description writers and then using some sort of digital medium to speak those descriptions. That's 3Play Media. But we did find that according to digital.gov, there are some things that we can think about even before it has to get that far, like incorporating the descriptions into your video. So having the person identify themselves and what their surroundings are, they can extremely mitigate the need for going into post and trying to make up for those lack of descriptions. Probably the easiest example of this that comes to mind is like a reporter. I think news reporters tend to do that pretty often. They try to give you as many details as possible, so that you hopefully can tell without even having to see the screen what's going on. You can also make another video if you didn't want to have solely just an audio described video. You can just make whatever your video is without the audio descriptions, then apply your audio descriptions and export a new video. The third option is adding an extra audio track to the video. Now, this one is a little bit of a gamble because there aren't a lot of video players out there that support having the additional audio track, namely YouTube. It's been asked by the communities for a while now, can we have audio description as a feature? And I don't know if YouTube just hasn't heard it, or if it just hasn't been escalated far enough for them. So they definitely do not support having an extra audio track embedded in the video. But we did find, I have a little bar here, just like it's not really a bar graph because it's a single bar, just to demonstrate that we have found the highest. And then we did find something that is low as in free. So, and that is YouDescribed. Now, YouDescribed was developed in 2013 by the Smith-Kettlewell Eye Institute. To be more exact, it was actually the Smith-Kettlewell Video Description Research and Development Center by scientist Joshua Meal. And it is a web-based platform, and it is free, and it has a volunteer-based community. And it pulls from the YouTube database and gives people a chance to audio describe those videos that would be seen on YouTube. If you wanted to see a YouTube video and you wanted to watch it with audio descriptions, right now this is one of the best options out there. They also create a wish list of videos that need audio description. So if you posted something to YouTube and you felt bad that you weren't able to do audio descriptions for it, you can go and find your video on YouDescribe and then add your audio description to it. It also is a great resource for getting started with creating your own audio descriptions. Before I kind of felt, Rollin and I both agree that audio description is definitely some sort of art form. It's not just something you can jump into immediately. And it seemed like it would be beyond us. But after I watched like 15 minutes of YouDescribed's audio description basics videos, I was like, actually, I feel like I can do this. I might not be an absolute pro at it, but it convinced me that I didn't need some sort of degree from an accredited institute, a school or a certificate in order to get started doing audio description. So definitely will be giving this a go for our videos. And so, yeah, that was pretty much the meat of what we were able to find with audio description. And I have here references. So for anyone that wants to go and verify any of the things that we've spoken about today, or read in more detail, or watch in more detail, when we share these slides, all of this is hyperlinked, so you can go straight to any of these. And again, here is a photo of me and Rollin with our contact information. Again, that is Jeff, Jeff, at PhillyCAM, PhillyCAM.org, and Roland at PhillyCAM.org. It's just our first name at PhillyCAM.org. All right, so we are wanting to open it up to Q&A, and also keeping in mind that this is an exchange. So if anyone has any other information they want to throw out there, by all means, please.
So this is Alex from Artreach. Thanks, Jeff and Roland, so much for that awesome presentation and all those resources. We have gotten a couple questions in our chat specifically about multiple language translation. And Roland, I know you had touched upon that with Rev specifically, supporting that feature. But we got one question asking specifically if you guys know if Descript has that capability for multiple language transcription, and if there's any other resources you might have also for Spanish language translation as well, if there's any programs that you might recommend.
So definitely our go-to for multiple language would be Rev in that regard, because we've noticed, we found automated transcriptions to get very easily tripped up with multiple languages. I mean, YouTube probably has the best right now going for it when it comes to automation and doing other languages. Descript, I would have to look into. I would like to think that it is capable of doing Spanish, but I have not actually given it a try. And I found that it also got tripped up on code switching when some Spanish words were mixed in with English conversation. So having a human be able to distinguish is the better way to go from my experience. But Roland, you can also chime in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my experience using Rev, they're very quick. That $3 a minute, which gets you English and Spanish, hard deal to beat. And it's, done by a real person. So it is accurate. In an ideal world, it's still great to have someone who's fluent in both languages review the subtitles. There are still going to be things that are maybe off, particularly like it could be cultural things between different Spanish-speaking countries. So, there's no guarantee that the country of origin that your content is related to is going to match up with however Rev does it. But in my experience so far using it, the English-Spanish combo has been highly accurate. But that's just for captions. It's not creating like a dub track or anything. And again, as Jeff mentioned before, a lot of platforms don't support that additional audio track where you could like toggle to actual a Spanish dub or something. That would be a whole different ballgame. But for captions, Rev is definitely worth considering.
Awesome. I'm just looking through our chat, and I don't see any other specific questions other than just a lot of people saying thank you and that the session was very informative, which is awesome. Is there anyone calling in that might not have access to chat that wants to ask a question? Going to give you a second. No? Okay. We just got one additional question about a Spanish language audio description as well. I don't know if you guys have any experiences or resources that we might be able to speak to that.
Spanish language audio description. I would have to check into that. I believe I did see 3Play Media advertise doing Spanish and some other languages. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, 3Play Media boasted quite a bit about their services. If I can follow up, or this person can contact me, I'd love to have that, because I don't think I put 3Play Media in my references as an audio description choice. So I'd like to make that available. That just occurred to me. But yeah, I think that might be worth looking into.
Definitely comes with a price tag, though. That was maybe our biggest.
Yeah.
For those of us in the nonprofit and indie filmmaking world, there were some dollar figures that set stomachs a plummeting when we first pulled it up, but it's there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're just at about time. It's 4 p.m. now. Katie, do you want to jump on and close us out?
Yeah, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just clicking to the next slide.
Yep.
That would be great. I want to thank you all so much for attending, and Rollin and Jeff for that really comprehensive. I know you guys put a lot of work into that, and it is really difficult sort of negotiating through the weeds in all of these different platforms. So having someone that's been sort of on top of this for the past, 2.5, 3 months, I think is really, really helpful. Our next learning opportunity for anyone out there who's willing to, engage with us and participate in this format is our virtual cultural accessibility conference, which we are transitioning into virtual coming this fall. We've not set a date on the actual days of the conference, but we have our RFP open and on our website, and we would love to see some submissions. They don't necessarily have to be this deeply involved in aspects of accessible accommodations for virtual experiences. We're looking for a whole gamut of opportunities, but as you saw from both Jeff and Rollin's perspective, we really like to bring in people who are working in various aspects of arts and culture to engage with us, because there's a lot of cross dialogue that can happen among all of our partners and in the greater world. I think we have folks that have tuned in from over the pond. So it's exciting to have you all here, and we thank you so much. I think that about does it, unless we have any further questions that have popped into the chat, or if anyone else wants to say something either over the phone that didn't have a chance to ask a question or anything like that. But I think we'll wrap things up. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So thanks everyone so much for joining. And like we said before, we'll be posting this online as well. So you can always come back to the recorded session later. All right. But thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Alrighty.
This is fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.